Hello everybody, today I have another video for you all. Hooray! And this is part 3 of my 5-part 200 subscriber series. And today I thought I could go over some of my original characters that I've created and shown off on the channel. I've talked a little bit about these guys, but I feel like I haven't given the full story about them all. And instead of choosing one in particular, I chose a bunch of different ones that I've shown off before, and also I have a couple others that I haven't shown off yet, but have created. But before we get into this video, I just want to shout out my good friend, Bubsky on YouTube. He's got 144 subscribers, and he makes pretty fun videos about gaming. I do want to warn you, his content is a lot more mature than mine. He does make a lot more inappropriate jokes. Just letting you know, but he's pretty fun, and I highly suggest you go give him a watch. So before I start talking about these characters, I should probably explain where they came from. So in some of my earlier videos, I talk about this special type of robot that I made up called the Mecca Guardians. And the Mecca Guardians originate from this planet called Terabot Planet, which is inhabited by Terabots. An organic life form similar to humans, but made of metal. But they can still bleed and feel pain, a lot like humans. And the king of Terabot Planet realized that his planet was no longer safe and was being attacked by other creatures from other planets. So he built the Mecha Guardians, an army of robots similar to Terabots, but they can't bleed or feel the same level of pain, and also have special powers that most Terabots don't have. But the king of Terabot Planet eventually went mad due to trying to build a massive army to try and protect his planet. And eventually he tried to destroy the Mecha Guardians by blowing them all up. But his plan did not go as he expected, and he ended up blowing himself to pieces, and also letting most Mecha Guardians survive the explosion. And the characters in front of you are some of the sole survivors of the terrible explosion that killed most of them. I'll probably explain the story a little more in some other videos, but that's the main story of how these guys came to be. The first few characters I want to talk about are the 3 in front of you, and these are the Hook brothers. And now, a little disclaimer, these characters are not Mecha Guardians, they are actually Terabots. Like I explained earlier, the Terabot planet was inhabited by Terabots, so these are living, breathing robots, and they need to eat and survive, unlike the Mecha Guardians, who are more robotic robots. These are actual organic species. So the one in front is named Scrappy Hook, and he was the first one I designed of the 3. And as you can see, he's kind of got a slouched, hunched over appearance. He's got almost like a gremlin type design. And as you can see, he's got a hook. Right here he's got a hook, and the thing he's holding in his hand is called a bomb crystal, and I'd like to think that a bomb crystal is a type of rock or stone or ore found on Terabot Planet, and Scrappy here enjoys playing with it. They kind of pop a lot like firecrackers, but in large quantities they can make lethal explosions, and size about this big can inflict a little bit of damage, so he uses them as weapons. And yeah, I've actually modified him a lot since my previous video talking about this guy. Like, I've added eyebrows and more of a hunched posture. I also kind of raised his arms up since my previous video talking about them. And one detail is that I have this leg is covered in dark gray and this one's light gray. I like to think that that's just part of his more scrappy name, like he's kind of made of scrap almost. And interesting fact about him is that he is the second oldest Hook brother out of the 3 here. And yeah, he's kind of the most interesting one, and he kind of stands out the most. I kind of wanted him to be almost like the middle child almost, because he is kind of the middle child. So he's kind of like, he's like ugly, he's old, like kind of gross. Yeah. That's all I have to say about him. I enjoy his design, and yeah, I like it a lot. And the second Hook brother I have to talk about is Junkie Hook. And he is the tech specialist, and he kind of manages the Mecha Guardian team, and he builds all the weapons and basically invents all the stuff for the team. He's like a very smart engineer and is basically the brains of the whole operation. And now Junkie here is actually my favorite Mecha Guardian character I've made. And I've basically considered myself this character. Like, he is me. Yeah, he's basically like, I don't want to say my alter ego, but he's just built of just my personality. This guy is literally my personality. All the Hook brothers, I like to consider them like different parts of me in different ways. Like, they all represent me in different ways. Junkie here is personally my favorite, and he's like the first one I actually associated myself with. He's got a lot of unique things about him. One of his main iconic traits has to be his kind of like messed up gray eye, which is a trait shared throughout all three Hook brothers. And I'd like to think that it's not actually a messed up eye, but more just like a birthmark or kind of just like a unique. I don't remember what it's called, but like that condition where like you have two differently colored eyes. And that's basically, it's like a common thing with the Terrabots on the Terrabot planet, is that they could have like messed up eyes, stuff like that, but they still function normally. And it's kind of just like a thing that's been passed on through all of the Hook brothers. Another kind of main detail of Junkie is his kind of braided ponytail in the back. And I haven't had it like that the entire time I've had him. There's actually him in his... when I first designed him, he was actually red and black. And he didn't have as many of the iconic traits that he had. And he almost looked more of like a junk scrap abomination. And that's kind of like where his name came from. His name was Junkie because he looked like a pile of junk. Because like he was all lopsided and messed up, and he's supposed to look like trash, basically. But eventually I cleaned him up a lot and made him look a lot nicer. And as you can see, he's a lot... It looks a lot better than how he used to. I don't have any pictures or anything. It was like a long time ago when I designed him, like many years before I started my channel even. And yeah, he didn't have the ponytail the entire time. I only added it to him when I turned him like the white and gold that he is now. And I'd like to think that in the story he used to be red, but then eventually colored himself white and gold because he just preferred those colors. And yeah, I've kind of modified him a lot over the years, like just changed different pieces to be the way I like. This is the most I've changed him. Well, not the most, because he used to be red and black. I might eventually rebuild a version of him that's red and black just to show what he kind of used to look like. But yeah, I'm talking way too much about this character. I like him way too much. And the third and youngest Hook brother is Trashy Hook. And he is the youngest of the three. So not only is he the youngest of the three, but he's also the newest one that I've designed out of the three. When I originally designed him, he was kind of like a side character that I didn't really think about much. He actually used to be part of the Terrabot Express. He was kind of one of those characters in the prototype version before I made the final version that I've shown off in my channel. And I wasn't really happy with the character, and eventually I just took him apart and I rebuilt him, and I eventually turned him into what you see here. I almost originally designed him as almost a doppelganger, like a opposite version of Junkie, but eventually just decided to turn him into another Hook brother. And as you can see, he's almost like a mirrored version of Junkie, like the slightly bulkier shoulders on the opposite side. And the hooks are still on the same side, and also the eye is still on the same side. But yeah, he's basically the exact same build as Junkie, just mirrored and then also kind of lengthened to give him like that extra height. Because I did want him to be like the tallest of the three, like kind of have a lot of height. Even though he's the youngest, he is still the tallest of the three, which is kind of ironic. But yeah, I like to think of him as more of the reckless, tactical, kind of brave, like doesn't fear death kind of character. And a lot of times he's almost annoying and frustrating Junkie here, who is trying to make all sorts of plans, and Trashy here kind of just throws that all out the window and just kind of like kind of throws precaution to the wind and runs into battle. Yeah. Actually, one thing I noticed is that I didn't even finish building his shoulder here. It's kind of awkward. I'll have it finished for other times I show him off, or I'll just leave it like that. I don't know. Now the next character I have to show off is Unknown Warrior. He is actually the first character I ever designed out of all the characters I have. He is the first. He is the original. And because of that, I call him the first Mecha Guardian. He was the first Mecha Guardian in the story to be created, and he was also the first character that I ever created. And so because of that, I also, as you can see, he's not like clean and colorful like all the other ones. He's actually all rusted and old because he was the first original Mecha Guardian. He has weathered away. He's worn. He's basically crumbled to dust. Like he's all rusty. Like I like to think that he used to be a bright red and yellow, red and gold, but he's eventually slowly decayed into kind of this brown rust pile. Now, I won't go into too much detail with this character, but if you want to see more about it, go check out Transformers Review 3 Unknown Warrior. For some reason, I was calling them Transformer reviews, even though this character's not even a Transformer. He's not even associated with Transformers. He's my own thing. And for some reason, I was calling them reviews, even though I'm not reviewing a figure. I'm showcasing a character. But yeah, that was kind of something weird I did. But if you want to know a little more about this character, go watch that. So next character in the Mecha Guardian team is Christmas Bot, or as I like to call him, Xmas Bot. And although you do see 3 characters here, it's really only one character. But I'll go through these two. I'll show off these 2 little guys first. So this one is Elfbot, and this one is Presentbot. And I kind of designed these characters around Christmas time, a long time ago. And they're kind of based off like a more Christmassy theme. He was supposed to be like kind of like an Elfbot who would package toys. And he was supposed to be a Presentbot that would wrap presents and all that stuff. And kind of my original story is that they worked at like a Christmas mall, or a mall around Christmas time. But eventually I dropped that whole story, and now their kind of festive Christmassy themes still exist, but they now have nothing to do with Christmas and are kind of just like characters that are all festively dressed up now. And I like to think that's more of a coincidence that they look like this, and it's just that's how they look. But anyways, Elfbot here, I like to think is the more serious of the 2 and is like a lot more logical. And as you can see, I have him kind of like saluting here, and his design, like he's almost like kind of Bluetooth connected, almost kind of like similar design to like Eve in Wall-E. And then Presentbot here, he bounces on one wheel, kind of is supposed to be on one wheel, and he's got 2 little arms that come out the sides. When I originally designed him, he was only just a cylinder with no arms or a wheel or anything on the bottom. So kind of just rolled around. The whole joke was that he wraps the presents even though he doesn't have arms, but eventually I gave him arms like this, and I think it looks a little better now. Now the third one of the 3, being Christmas Bot, or as I like to call him, Xmas Bot, and that's actually how I like to spell his name, X-Mess Bot. That's his name. And as you can see, he's got this big backpack of stuff. I'd like to think that he is the kind of medic and kind of the one who kind of follows around and aids all the other characters. And like he's not really battle ready. As you can see, he's the skinniest character of them all. And he's got this fun little Santa hat on his head. Again, like I like to think that's just kind of like a normal hat that he wears, and it just looks like a Christmas hat. And you can see how I attached it, just a couple studs stacked up. And yeah, you can actually remove this backpack, which has all sorts of stuff on it, but I'll talk about that in a minute. And it's pretty skinny and basic design, but I do really like it. And I like to think of him as more of the word of reason, and always having to tell the other Mecha Guardians that something's not a good idea and it probably shouldn't be done a certain way. But he often doesn't get listened to, and it's often Junkie who has to kind of restate a lot of things he says because everyone listens to Junkie and not him. And with Xmas here, I'd like to think that he's best friends with Unknown Warrior here, and he's second in command of the Mecha Guardians, even though he's really not qualified to be second in command. And I'd also like to think that all of his Mecha Guardian friends call him Max as a nickname instead of Xmas because it is kind of a hard name to say every single time. But yeah, he's actually gone through a lot of different designs, and originally I had like a minifigure skeleton body with like just elongated legs. But I eventually decided to stick with this more brick-built design instead of using like a minifigure skeleton. And he does have like this interesting ab crunch here, mainly just from the piece usage here. Now looking at his backpack, he's got a shield, a walkie-talkie, a gun, kind of little like kind of aiding spray, some sort of medicine spray or something. Small pot for cooking stuff or boiling stuff. And then a little kind of first aid kit which hangs out the bottom. And then this last thing up here is just a wire like antenna to maybe connect to the walkie-talkie, or maybe there's like there's like a radio or something inside here that he can like connect to try and communicate with other Mecha Guardians. It just clicks neatly on his back like so. And I think it looks really cool on him. He's kind of like a small character, but he gets bulked up a lot more with the excessive amount of artillery he has on his back. And yeah, he can kind of hold all his weapons. I think it looks good with his gun. It just looks the coolest, and he poses really well. He's got a bunch of different points of articulation, so you can make it look like he's holding the gun. Like I said earlier, I'd like to think of him not as a battle-ready character, and he's more like behind, like just aiding everybody and not actually fighting, and he's not really qualified at all. Next character in the Mecha Guardian team is Bolt, and I've already done a video on this guy as well, and he has a lot of backstory to him, so if you want, go just watch that video on my channel. So I'm not going to talk too much about him, but one thing I didn't say in my original video is that I'd like to think of him as almost a fatherly figure towards Junkie, and he's often having to guide him through and help him understand things and stuff. But yeah, as you can see, he's missing a lot of his body, and the main detail is that this is his actual body, and he's like kind of wearing a bionic suit to keep him up, because as you can see, he's missing like his arms and legs. He's kind of got a very similar backstory to kind of Metalbeard the Pirate from the Lego movie, where, if you remember, in the beginning of the video, I said that the creator of the Mecha Guardians was not satisfied with results, so he blew them all up, and Bolt was caught in the explosion, and as you can see, this is the aftermath. Since Bolt was a fatherly figure towards Junkie didn't want to lose him, so what he did, he helped him out and built him a bionic suit so they could still be together. The next characters in the Mecha Guardian team are the dynamic duo Pickup and Hitchhiker, and these are both characters that my brother partially designed, in a way. So with Pickup here, here's the first one of the two to be designed. He was actually originally built as kind of like this bigger super character, and he was supposed to be like the leader of the Mecha Guardians, but I eventually scrapped that character because I wasn't really interested in it, and also Unknown Warrior is supposed to be the leader of the Mecha Guardians. So I eventually scrapped the design, but eventually I revisited it and made him into this. And the way he was designed, I basically kind of walked up to my brother, was like, hey, do you want to design a character? And he's like, yeah, whatever. And I was like, what do you want him to look like? And he's like, green and yellow or something. I was like, okay. I don't even know if he said green and yellow. I think he said like green and blue or something. I was like, I don't have any blue, so I'm just going to do yellow. So I basically asked my brother if I should make a character, and he said, yeah, whatever. And this was the character. So my brother didn't really make this one, but he was associated partially with it. Now my brother did design Hitchhiker, and what he did to make Hitchhiker, you just took my design of Junkie, or more accurately, Trashy with the taller, lankier body, and just kind of worked it into his own character. And yeah, it's a pretty nice design. He didn't really come up with an actual story for the character. I came up with the story. And when he originally designed the character, he named it Michael. But I decided to name it Hitchhiker because pickup and hitchhiker, like a pickup truck, and he was a hitchhiker who needs a ride. It's kind of the whole story of him. I've already done a video on these guys, so again, I don't want to go into too much detail. But one thing I didn't say in my original video is that, as you can see, that they're also all beaten up, mainly pickup, like from the explosion, like I said earlier. And I like to think that this kind of like weird twist to the characters that Pickup loses his sight and Hitchhiker loses his hearing. So they kind of have to help each other out navigate the world and stuff. And it's not like fully lost, like he could still see and he could still hear, but like it's very, very rough. And the final and smallest character in the Mecha Guardian team is Ricky Reckless. And one of my favorite things about him is just the name. I don't know where or when I came up with it, but I was just like, Ricky kind of fits him. I don't know why I thought Ricky fit him, but I decided to go with Ricky, and then I named him Reckless. Ricky Reckless. Yeah, it was because he's supposed to kind of be like, almost like a cool dude wannabe, and like kind of like a. I didn't really remember what exactly I wanted him to be, but I wanted him to be kind of like a cool dude wannabe, who wasn't really that cool, but kind of more dorky, and not really that interesting, but he still thinks he is. He used to be able to turn to a bike, which explains the tire here, but I decided to not do that because it kind of messed up his look, so I kind of abandoned it. And also, I didn't want to associate the characters with Transformers anymore because when I first started my channel and were showing off my characters, I associated them all with Transformers, but I wanted them to all be like original characters and not anything to do with Transformers. So I kind of removed all the transforming features from all of them, but the tire was kind of like a main part of him, so now he just got this tire hand. I'd like to think that maybe he lost his hand in the explosion or something, and he ended up getting it replaced with this kind of weird, like, wheel gun thing. And on his other hand, you can see what his other hand would have looked like. It's kind of just like this skinny little hand. I used minifigure hands just to kind of get that curve on it. It looks pretty good. And as you can see, he's got these cool shades on. Really cool shades, kind of more leans into the whole cool dude wannabe, which you can actually remove them. You can see his face underneath. I'd like to think that he's got like this very small, kind of wide looking face, very flat. Kind of always kind of tired, lazy looking eyes. Also, as you can see, he has these handlebars on the top of his head. I'd like to think that it's supposed to resemble like handlebars from a bike. Like he's kind of got the aesthetic of a bike, but he can't turn into a bike anymore. And also it's like kind of like a large unibrow on top of his head, like it kind of contorts like eyebrows or something. You can kind of hold his sunglasses if you position his hand a certain way. It's really hard to get him to hold it. There you go. It's like it just bounces in his hand. It doesn't really click in or anything. So the reason why Ricky Reckless is on the Mecha Guardian team and he hasn't been kicked out, even though he's so small and skinny and has really nothing good about him, is that he has the power to teleport and move really fast. And I don't really remember where I got the idea, but I just decided that his small, simple character, I feel like something like him teleporting would just spice it up a little bit. So, yeah, I'd like to think that he teleports around and is pretty good, and that's really the only redeeming fact about him. Besides that, he's kind of annoying and nobody else really likes him. Altogether, they do kind of look a little messy since they're all vastly different colors from each other and they're all vastly different sizes and shapes. But that's kind of like the theme I went for, because originally they weren't all part of the same team and they were all like, they didn't know each other, and then after the explosion, they were the sole survivors and they eventually all teamed up together. And obviously, if you remember, the Hook brothers over here are not Mecha Guardians, so they also aren't part of all this, but they eventually joined because they wanted to help out. Now you might be wondering, what are the Mecha Guardians fighting for? What's their opponent? What are they trying to protect? Now if you just look down here, these three little guys are called the Mecha Guardian Eye Trophies. And they are what give the Mecha Guardians their powers. Now as you can see, there's three of them here. There's the red eye trophy, the blue eye trophy, and the orange eye trophy. And these trophies are more like powerful like batteries that basically like wirelessly power all the Mecha Guardians. Mainly their eye colors and their abilities. So the red eye trophy gives Mecha Guardians the powers of like more like aggression and power. The blue eye trophy gives them more intelligence and better skills in battle. The orange eye trophy gives them like more bravery and courage and more skilled fighting tactics. The most common Mecha Guardian eye color is the blue eyes, and the least common color is the orange eyes. Now, why are the Mecha Guardians trying to protect these eye trophies? Well, the creator of the Mecha Guardians is basically, he brainwashed himself into thinking that he needs to kill the Mecha Guardians instead of just wanting to destroy them. So he basically becomes evil, and I'll get more into that in other videos because I do have videos planned on talking about the creator of the Mecha Guardians. But he basically wants to take the eye trophies and use them to destroy the Mecha Guardians, because if you look on the inside, what powers the eye trophies are the eye trophy shards, and they hold all the power to the trophies. And I don't really have an explanation on where the little shards come from, but as you can see, all three of them have one inside. And the trophies are not the source of the power, they just basically emit the power to the Mecha Guardians and allow them to use the eye color powers. And if the shards ever get into the wrong hands, they can be used to actually destroy the Mecha Guardians. And are basically the Mecha Guardians' only weakness, the shards inside the eye trophies. Now there is one more eye trophy, being the green eye trophy. Now, as you can see, this one's a little different, and that's because the green eye trophy is a lot more powerful than the other three eye trophies. And so the green eyes basically give the Mecha Guardians all the powers of the previous three eye trophies, but also extras, like the capabilities to transform, shapeshift, and like use mind controlling powers and stuff like that. And on this the little eyepiece that I used here actually glows in the dark. As you can see, it glows pretty well, and I think it looks pretty cool in the dark. Now the green eye trophy, I'd like to think, is also a lot more powerful than the other eye trophies, and is almost dangerous to be around, and can almost like, basically kind of like the Horcruxes from Harry Potter, can kind of like turn someone evil almost. And yeah, there is a little more story to that, but I want to save that for other videos to talk about the full story of the green eye trophy in particular. But yeah, those are the eye trophies, and that's why the Mecha Guardians are fighting. So I hope you've enjoyed today's video, and if you did, please like and subscribe, and go check out my community tab. And like I said earlier, go check out my friend Bubski for gaming content. And I'd just like to remind you again, he is a little more mature than me. Mature content, I mean. I've enjoyed being able to share my characters again on my channel for once, because I've kind of forgotten about them. And a lot of the story that I've made about them, I've kind of reworked a lot since my previous showings of these characters. And some of these characters I haven't shown off before, so I'm glad to be able to finally show them all off together, because this was something I was trying to lead up to when I was first making all these videos, but I never got around to it. Until next time, bye-bye.